Hey, what is going on, guys? RvzStealth here, and in today's video we're going to be looking at the new Korean Lethality Jhin build and comparing its strength to the standard crit build to determine which is better in what situations. So the build consists of a Youmuu's Rush into a Sanguine Blade and then Rapid Fire Cannon as your third item. Many high elo Korean AD carries have been spamming the build over the past few days now and having a ton of success on it, as you can see here. So I thought it'd be interesting to take a look at why it's so strong in this video. Now, the one really odd thing to this build setup on Jhin and what makes it really unique is that Sanguine Blade is the second core item to this build. You want to go for Youmuu's first into Sanguine Blade, and you might be wondering, like, why would you go Sanguine Blade on Jhin? Because he doesn't really benefit from attack speed, but he does actually benefit from the attack speed you get from Sanguine Blade, because 25% of his attack speed is converted into AD. And the reason to why you can actually benefit from this Sanguine Blade passive a lot better than most other AD carries is that Jhin does have very long range on his W and on his ultimate, so he can benefit from the Sanguine attack speed conversion to AD even when team fighting, as long as he stays away from 1350 radius away from the enemy team. Then he's going to be getting that extra damage there from the attack speed from Sanguine Blade, which will make his W and ultimate hurt for a ton in team fights. Alright, so let's now jump into comparing the two different build paths at three different points in the game. So we're going to take a look here first at the one item spike. So 3,250 gold is going to get you a Youmuu's and a longsword. The equivalence of that for the crit setup is going to be 3,200 gold, which is going to get you the Stormrazor. Okay, so with the lethality setup there, you're going to get 65 AD, 10% CDR, 18 lethality, and then the Youmuu's active. And with the Stormrazor, 50 AD, so 15 AD less, you are going to be getting the 15% attack speed, 25% crit, and the passive from Stormrazor. Now, if we jump into practice tool and take a look at the damage comparison for the two build paths, if you're going up against like a Caitlyn at level 8 who's got 1k HP and 50 armor, that's what a normal Caitlyn would have. 4 auto attacks with your lethality setup is going to deal 653 damage, Q 177, W 129, and then your ultimate here, if you get 4 shots of your ultimate off, it's going to deal 441 damage. Now with the crit setup, 4 autos will deal 689, a Q will deal 162, W 118, and then ultimate 392 damage. So damage wise at the one item spike, what we can take away so far is that your auto attacks will deal a little bit more damage with the crit setup, but your abilities will be dealing more damage with the lethality setup. Okay, so now if we compare the two different build paths at their two item spikes, for 5,900 gold, you're going to get a Youmuu's and a Sanguine Blade, and for 5,800, you're going to have a Stormrazor and a Rapid Fire Cannon. For that lethality setup, you get 110 AD, attack speed's going to be 55% if you're benefiting from that Sanguine passive, and if Jhin's level 11, so we're going to be comparing the damage output with and without that attack speed added on there from the Sanguine. CDR is 10%, lethality 28 plus 8 if you are benefiting from the Sanguine passive there, lifesteal 50%, and then you have the Youmuu's active. And then for the crit setup, a lot less AD at 50, attack speed is going to be 45%, so actually 10% less there if you are benefiting from Sanguine's passive. Crit is going to be obviously a lot higher though at 50%, move speed 7%, and then you are going to have the passives from Rapid Fire Cannon and Stormrazor. So first here, we're going to compare the damage for these two different build paths here at two items on Caitlyn once again, who's going to be level 11, 1.3k HP and 60 armor. And then after that, we're going to compare the damage on a tankier target who's got a lot more armor. Okay, so 4 autos with this Sanguine setup here is going to deal 1,125 damage, a Q 278, W 203, and then ultimate 1,229. Without the Sanguine passive, 4 autos deals 950, a Q 247, W 182, and the ultimate here is going to deal 1,081 damage. And then with the crit setup, 4 autos 996, a Q 202, W 149, and then ultimate is going to deal 830 damage. So overall here, if you're dealing damage up against an enemy AD carry who doesn't have a ton of armor, they only have their 60 base armor, then you are going to be dealing more damage with the lethality setup there. A little bit less damage if you're not benefiting from the Sanguine passive from your 4 auto attacks, but you're going to be dealing a lot more damage from your 4 auto attacks if you do have that Sanguine passive active, and you're always going to be dealing more damage from your abilities with the lethality setup. All right, now let's take a look at the damage against a tankier target. So this is going to be a Maokai level 13, 2.2k HP and 220 armor. So we're going to assume he's got his base armor along with armor from a Sunfire Cape and a Thornmail. Okay, so 4 auto attacks is going to deal 472 with your Sanguine setup, a Q124, W91, and then ultimate is going to be dealing 365. If you're not benefiting from the Sanguine passive, 4 autos deals 411 damage, a Q deals 124, W is going to be dealing 84, and then ultimate here is going to be dealing 342. And then taking a look at the crit setup, 4 auto attacks is going to give you 472 damage, a Q 101, W 75, and then ultimate is going to be dealing 305 damage. So what we can take away from this is that you're still dealing more damage from your abilities, but your auto attacks from the crit setup is just going to be a lot more consistent. If you're not benefiting from that Sanguine passive, your 4 autos there is going to deal a considerably less amount of damage. So against a more tankier composition where the enemy does have a lot of armor stacking champions, the crit setup here is going to outclass the lethality setup. And then lastly, let's run down a comparison of the build paths here at their 3 item spike. So with the lethality page, you're going to have Youmuu's Sanguine Blade, Rapid Fire Cannon, and a Pickaxe for 9,375 gold. And then for the crit setup at 9,200 gold, you're going to have a Storm Razor, Rapid Fire Cannon, and an Infinity Edge. So for the lethality setup, you're going to be getting 135 AD. Attack speed is going to be 30% plus the 66% if you're benefiting from the Sanguine passive, CDR 10%, crit 25%, lethality 28, plus the 8, move speed 7%, lifesteal 15, and then the active and the passives you're getting. And then for the crit page, much simpler, you're just gonna be getting 130 AD, attack speed 45%, crit 75%, move speed 7%, and then you're gonna be getting the passives as well. So first, comparing the damage here on a squishy target, Caitlyn level 14, 1.6k HP and 70 armor, 4 autos with that lethality setup there is going to deal 1,794 damage, a Q337, W293, and then ultimate 1,254 damage. And then if you're not benefiting from the Sanguine passive though, you're going to be dealing 1,605 damage from your 4 autos, Q298, W263, and then ultimate is going to be dealing 1,094. And then for the crit setup, 4 autos, 1,925 damage, Q is dealing 277, W clocks in at 240, and then ultimate here is going to be 995. So late game against a squishy enemy composition, you're going to be dealing a lot more damage from your abilities, okay, with the lethality setup, but your autos will still be dealing a lot more from the crit setup there. Alright, and then on our tanky target now, a Maokai at level 16, 3k HP and 240 armor, 4 auto attacks with your Sanguine, 693 damage, a Q 151, W is going to be dealing 131, and then your ultimate is going to clock in at 386 damage here. And then Sanguine, if you're not benefiting from the Sanguine passive, 4 autos, 677 damage, a Q 137, W 121, and then ultimate is going to be 358. And then for the crit setup, 4 autos, 797 damage, a Q 138, W is going to be dealing 120, and then ultimate 367 damage. So the takeaways from this comparison is that the crit setup is just going to outclass the lethality setup once you do hit this point in the game if you are up against multiple tanky targets. So you're going to be dealing way more damage from your auto attacks from the crit setup, and that little bit of extra damage you're getting from your abilities is not going to be worth the extra damage from the autos. So crit setup wins in this situation. And then to round things out, let's go over a conclusion and discuss which item path is going to be better for you in what situation. Okay, so for the lethality setup, it's going to be stronger at 1 and 2 items if the enemy team has very little armor. Okay, if it's a full squishy enemy composition, if they're not going to be building, if they don't have a tank or they're not going to be building any armor, then your auto attacks at the 2 item spike of Youmuu's and Sanguine is going to be dealing very similar damage, if not more damage than the crit setup, depending on if you are benefiting from the Sanguine Blade passive, but your abilities will be dealing way more damage than the crit setup. This is where the lethality setup really shines here in the mid game. Your ultimate, if you can hit all 4 shots, is going to be dealing around 400 more damage with the lethality setup than with the crit setup. And then when will the crit setup be better for you? If the enemy comp is going to be stacking a ton of armor, if you've got like a full AD composition, or the enemy team does just have multiple tanks, then that's when going for the crit setup will be better for you. You need to deal damage from your auto attacks in order to take down tanks in the mid to late game, and at that 3-item spike there, the crit setup is just going to allow you to deal way more damage to tanks at that point in the game. Alright, so that is going to be all for the video, guys. Hopefully you now have a really good understanding as to when each build is going to be good for Jhin, so you can look to, alternate between the 2 different builds in solo queue when you are playing the champion. So that being said, if you guys enjoyed the video, be sure to drop a like and subscribe if you have yet to already. So thanks for watching, have an awesome day, and I will see you in my next video.